Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are going to continue and finish chapter 2 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika today. I'm going to start us off, and then Bristol is going to go over the shat karma kriyas, and then I'll finish with pranayama. So it'll be page 33 in your Brian Ecker's text. And like we did yesterday, let's begin with the invocation mantra to Guru Nat. So close your eyes, take a nice tall seat, deep breath in. I'll do call and repeat. Pranayama Shri Gurum Natam. Pranayama Shri Gurum Natam. Svatmaramana yogina, Svatmaramana yogina, Kevalam Raja Yogaya, Kevalam Raja Yogaya, Hatha Vidyam Upadishyate, Hatha Vidyam Upadishyate. Again, that means prostrating first to the Guru Yogi. Svatmarama instructs the knowledge of Hatha, the highest store of yoga. So if you open up to page 33, if you haven't already, it begins by saying, after mastering the asanas, which we just talked about in chapter 1, the yogi possessing self-control and eating a suitable, moderate diet should practice pranayama as taught by his guru. So as everything is systematic here, it's saying, clean up your diet, practice the asana, get your body fit, and then we'll introduce pranayama. And it's said as taught by his guru. So again, the importance of learning from a teacher. It's always mentioned again here. But I also want to say that who the original yogis, they didn't have a teacher. So where did the teachings come from? In addition to the physical manifest form of a teacher in front of you, there's also the mind stream, which is a guru can come to you through the mind stream because you are your own guru, right? There's only one. So everything that we need to know is really already in here. We just may not remember. But sometimes the living form of a manifested enlightened being or someone well on their way can be helpful for us to learn how to do these in a very practical sense. So shloka 2. When the breath is unsteady, the mind is unsteady. When the breath is steady, the mind is steady, and the yogi becomes steady. Therefore, one should restrain the breath. We know for sure that the breath has an effect on the body and the mind, but vice versa, the mind and the body have an effect on the breath. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. We can influence our health, the pace in which we breathe, the pace in which our heart beats, the pace in which our mind fluctuates by working with the breath, learning how to work with the breath, and learning how to restrain the breath. How many of us have ever been really overwhelmed, flustered, or even people that don't practice yoga, they're just like, I just need to take a deep, calming breath. And that is because when we do that, the mind stops. And when we calm down all of the different systems of the body, we can go into the Monomani, or the mind beyond the mind. As long as there is breath in the body, there is life. Death is the departure of breath. Therefore, one should restrain the breath. So a couple of things here. So we talked about the gunas, and the gunas are what you can think of them as the colors that paint and create nature. Why we see form, right? That was a question that I asked my teacher. Why do we even see form at all? Like, what is the point of this whole Leela Rasa, this whole game? Like, why, if we're all already enlightened, why can't we just all already be enlightened? And that question I don't have an answer to, but it's helpful to think about in relationship to this shloka. So death is the departure of breath. Death as we know it is the departure of breath, right? Death in this realm, in this perception of things as we know it, is the absence of breath. But the breath, the prana, as we know yogically, is infinite. There is no end. So we're just changing clothes, if you will, into another form. However, Svatmarama goes on to say we should learn how to restrain the breath. Now, why would we want to do that? If we're not attached to life, who cares when we die? Well, the reasons being because we all have karma. If you didn't know that, that's why you're here. That's why you were born, and that's why you're not in the Buddha field or the celestial realm right now. Although you are there because there's no time and space. But we all have karmas, and we want to prolong our lives as much as possible so that we can burn through and dissolve those karmas so that we can be either enlightened or born into a very nice birth the next time we have a go at it. So it's a place that we're not attached to life, but we use it because a human life is the most fortunate birth that we can be given. We use it to try and do the very best that we can for others, and then that has an effect on our karmas and on ourselves. When the nadis are disrupted by impurities, the breath doesn't enter the middle, which is Sushumna Nadi. How can the Unmani exist? How can the goal be attained? So what he's saying here is that if we cannot learn how to harness our energy, our vital life energy and prana, and get it to go in the right place, in our animalistic nature, human nature, the energy is going down and out, right? Apana, vayu, down and out. We are trying to reverse that energy flow and learn how to preserve it, preserve our seeds, if you will. How can we do that? If we have impurities and creases and bends, it's just not possible. So again, he is referring to the importance of cleansing out the channels. So whereas in asana, we really work to create flexibility and strengthen the body and sweat, the pranayama and the shat karma kriyas get into the more subtle body, which the asanas touch too. But imagine like, a metal straw. If you drink your smoothie all the time, which sometimes I'm guilty of this, and I don't use the little pipe cleaner to get it, there's like plaque that builds up on the inside. And the same can be said for these nadis. So the pranayama and the shat karma kriyas help to cleanse them in an even deeper way. The yogi is fit to control the prana only when all the nadis disrupted by impurities become pure. So they all have to be flowing smoothly in order for this to work. Therefore, always do pranayama with a sattvic mind so that impurities in the Sushumna Nadi attain purity. So in addition to actually doing these things, manifestation is a big piece of yoga that's not always so clear on what this means. It's imagining yourself as already pure, as already clean. Even though that might not be the case, you don't really believe it yet, you kind of fake it until you make it. So every time that you're going into pranayama or doing the kriyas, for example, you would want to imagine yourself as already clean, already pure. And then that has an even more amplified effect on the actual practice of doing the cleansing. The yogi, having assumed Padmasana, lotus pose, should inhale prana with the moon. After holding as long as possible, should exhale with the sun. So we're going into the first pranayama. So the way that the HYP is set up, for chapter 2, it talks about pranayama a little bit. Then it talks about the kriyas, and then it goes back to pranayama. So the first one that they refer to is Nadi Shodhana. And within Nadi Shodhana, we have Chandra Beta and Surya Beta, which are, Chandra is the lunar side, the left-hand side of the body. This is my left. I'm not sure if it looks left to you. The feminine side of the body, the moon side of the body, and then we have the Surya, which is the sun, the masculine side of the body. And they are represented by the Ida Nadi and the Pingala Nadi, which cross at the 7 chakras in the body, and then they terminate at the nostrils. When we alternate between left and right, it's called Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. When we just do one, for example, if you have, so Svatmarama actually cautions against doing too much Chandra Beta, which is bringing more of the lunar quality in. We don't want to bring too much in because then we can kind of become a recluse a little bit. It brings us really low. But if you have a really Rajasic or high energy, passionate personality, you could benefit from doing that sometimes. On the other hand, most of us could benefit from the Surya Beta, which is taking more of the masculine fire energy in for tapas in our practice. So again, when we alternate between the two, it's Nadi Shodhana. When we just do one, it may be Surya Beta, which is inhaling through the right, exhaling through the left, bringing in masculine, releasing feminine, or Chandra Beta, bringing in feminine, releasing masculine. So it's kind of like bringing out what you want in and cleansing out what we need to have a little bit less of. And when this is most evident, I think, for people is like when we wake up in the morning or when we go to bed, you can feel that when you wake up in the morning, if you're not someone who's like rearing to go, you could do some Surya Beta, right? Bring in more fire energy and release the sleepy Chandra energy. Or at nighttime, you could, if you are having trouble falling asleep, you could inhale the sleepy Chandra lunar energy and exhale that Rajasic Surya fire element. And depending on your disposition, you know, your teacher may recommend doing one or the other. We all have dispositions. We all have changes in our lives where one may be more appropriate. Now, the mood, we're going to do Nadi Shodhana, and then we'll try Chandra Beta, and we'll try Surya Beta. And the mudra that we'll do this is called Vishnu Mudra. So you're going to take your index finger and your middle finger down so that your thumb and your fourth finger are free. The two knuckles are going to rest at your eyebrow. The thumb will be used to close your nostril. You can take your other hand palm down. You can take Jhana Mudra, Gyan Mudra, also called that. And we're going to alternate breathing in. Now, I actually have a deviated septum. I'll probably return to this later on when we do pranayama too, but I have a deviated septum. So you can try pulling the skin away. Close your eyes. Inhale through the right. Pause. Exhale through the left. You can block the right nostril. Now let's reverse it. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Last round. Exhale left. And then release. And notice my right side is definitely more clogged. The energy changes over every 2.5 hours. The lunar and the sun energy change over. And I experience, you can open your eyes, I experience like that slump in the early afternoon where I'm like, oh, should I have a matcha latte? Oh, that's when energy is changing over. So as we start to understand this more, learn more, we can understand why, perhaps, if you subscribe to these beliefs. So now we'll try Surya Beta, which is just the same thing, except we would only be doing it through the right. So it's just breathing through the right. So we're going to block the left with your fourth finger. Inhale through the right. Hold. Exhale through the left. Block the left. Again, inhale through the right. Hold. Exhale through the left. One more time. Inhale through the right. Hold, engage all your bandhas, tuck your chin in, Jalandhara Bandha. Exhale through the left. And then hold empty, hold your breath, release your right hand. Find your Kumbhaka. When you get the inclination to inhale, naturally breathe. Open your eyes. So that's Surya Beta. Let's try Chandra Beta. So it's the same thing, except the left is inhaling. So we'll block the right nostril with the thumb. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. Inhale left. Hold at the top. Exhale right. Inhale through the left. Hold at the top. Exhale through the right. Release your mudra. Find your Kumbhaka. Hold empty. When you feel the urge to inhale, you inhale. Open your eyes. So those are Nadi Shodhana, Surya Beta, which we'll actually come back to later, and Chandra Beta. All right, so I'm not sure. So I read number 7 to number 8. He should fill the interior slowly by inhaling prana with the sun. After holding the prescribed manner, he should exhale with the moon. So that's Surya Beta. He should inhale through the one with which he exhaled, hold with effort, then exhale slowly and without force through the other. Sorry, this is Nadi Shodhana. So they're telling us here to alternate. If the prana is inhaled through the Ida and retained, it should be exhaled through the other. If the breath is inhaled through the Pingala and retained, it should be exhaled through the left. The nadis of yogis who regularly practice in this manner, sun and moon, become pure after 3 months. Gradually increase the Kumbakas to 80, 4 times a day. So the retention to 80, a count of 80. It's a long time. 4 times a day. 80 rounds. 4 times a day, morning, midday, evening, and midnight. And again, those times a day correspond to the times in which the energy is changing over. So there is this moment in between when the energy is shifting that the prana is situated in Sushumna Nadi. And if we can do it exactly at that time, we will make a lot of progress with this practice. In the beginning, there will be sweat. In the middle, there is trembling. In the end, one obtains the goal. Therefore, one should restrain the breath. So first we just practice. Then we become more subtle with the time in which we do it and the way in which we do it and activating the bandhas. And then we make quite some progress with the breath retention of the Kumbhaka. And when we can do that, we'll go into the mind beyond the mind. Rub the body with the water born of fatigue, which is your sweat, to make it firm and light. Food containing milk and ghee is recommended for the initial phase of practice. The adoption of such a rule is unnecessary after one's practice is established. Bristol was talking about peacocks. Peacocks are incredible animals, and they actually live in Florida. I've seen them all over the place, which is really cool and unexpected. But peacocks have super acidic stomachs. They can digest just about anything, and they swallow rocks to help them with their digestion. They actually grind them to help with digestion. And in the beginning, we're not so strong as a peacock with what poisons we can take in. So it's suggested that we take a sattvic diet on. But then once we're established in our practice, we don't need to be so focused on a sattvic diet. We can take on anything with no attachment or aversion, and we can handle the poison. We become immune to it, actually. Immune to the karmas. Just as a lion, elephant, or tiger is tamed step by step, so the breath is controlled. Otherwise, it kills the practitioner. And this one's interesting. There's a few different ways that you could read this. The one I think that is most basic is that if we don't learn how to control our breath, then not only does it control us, it will also be the end of us, right? If we just run around throughout our day, breathing shallow, stressed out, that could be very detrimental to our health. But Swami Mukti says, here we go, it is very difficult to train a wild animal, especially a lion, tiger, or elephant. But if from a young age are given calm and continual training, they will respond to their master's command. Control of prana is also a tedious and delicate process, which requires alertness, awareness, patience, and constancy. If prana is left unrestrained, the eventual result is that the prana is exhausted and sickness and death occur. The life force and physical elements are burnt up. The gunas are burnt up. As you expend your energy in mundane and worldly affairs, prana has to be channelized and redirected so it's not wasted. Now, you've heard of sages who have lived hundreds of years. Now, how do you think they do that? They've learned how to preserve their prana. Okay, correct pranayama will weaken all diseases. Improper practice of yoga will strengthen all diseases. So you can imagine if that you were out of balance and your energies are clogged up, that if you did these things incorrectly, you could just potentially cause more problems. So he's saying here how important it is to practice these things done the right way, and also to have a comprehensive knowledge of yoga and enough sensitivity and awareness of yourself to know exactly what you need. And perhaps a lot of the time, guidance of a teacher is helpful, but we are beyond those who are in the mind stream, right? We are the only ones that know what we're feeling inside and what the results of certain things do to us inside. So it's super important to pay attention to it and make sure that it feels like it's the right thing. Irritation of the breath causes hiccups, asthma, coughing, headaches, earaches, pain in the eyes, and various other diseases. So just as irritation of the breath causes these things, perhaps this has happened to you as well, that you have a headache and that with your breath, you can make the headache go away. Certainly after learning this, I was like, oh, my poor breathing caused this. Well, then my good breathing should help to remedy that. And sometimes it works. Exhale the breath very properly. What does that mean? That means all the way out and through the nose. Inhale it very properly. It means all the way in through the nose. Retain it very properly. Retaining very properly means holding either empty or full or in between to a point, the sweet spot between effort and ease, right? We're not like forcing, we're going to turn blue and it feels unhealthy, but to that point where we naturally have the desire to, or the urge, I should say, to exhale or inhale. External signs appear when the nadis are pure. The body will definitely be lean and bright. And we'll just feel energized and we'll look healthier. Yeah, we've done so many things, asana, cleaning up your diet. Those will certainly have an effect on your appearance. But also as a note, don't get so caught up in these comments about physical appearance, because if you ever looked at a picture of Neem Karoli Baba, he looks like love, but he doesn't look like the picture of health and fitness. So most of these things are more about how you feel. Certainly being lean can be helpful, because then you can be agile and maybe have more stamina, but that's not always necessarily the case. So just take that with a grain of salt. Retention of the breath as desired, stimulation of digestion, manifestation of the nada, and good health come from purifying the nadis. So they're saying that if we purify the nadis, we will be able to retain our breath as desired. When we retain our breath, we go to the place beyond the mind. We go to a free place where we feel light and easy. We don't have any thought. Stimulation of digestion. That's really good to help us detox, but also if you have any digestive stuff, they say pranayama is like the cure for every ailment. And good health come from purifying the nadis. Like there's no harm in doing this. So next we are going to go into the shat karma kriyas, and Bristol is going to teach you guys that. So be right back.
Okay, everybody, so we're at verse 21 in chapter 2 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is where we get into one of the things the HYP is most famous for, which are the shat karma kriyas. And so the kriyas are first described saying that one having too much fat and phlegm should first do this 6 karmas, but one who doesn't need not do them, since his humors are equable, meaning that if you have balance within all the doshas, right? If your kapha, pitta, and vata are well balanced, then you don't need to try these shat karma kriyas. Just like if you were not struggling with an ear infection, you wouldn't take ear infection medicine. But if you are having an imbalance, then you could use these 6 practices to address them. Shat is 6, karma is action, right? And a kriya is a cleansing. So the 6 kriyas are dauti, vasti, which sometimes gets called basti with a B, neti, trottika, nauli, and kapalabhati. So we'll explain those more in more detail. These 6 karmas, purifying the body, producing remarkable qualities, are to be given only to the worthy. They are honored by the best yogis. So then we go into the first one, which is dauti. And dauti is pretty intense. So it's internal cleansing. Slowly swallow a wet cloth, which is 4 fingers wide. That's pretty wide. And 15 hands long. It's pretty long. In the manner instructed by one's guru. Draw it out again. This is called dauti karma. So I have seen this done once. I do not personally practice dauti. And there are multiple types of dauti. The one that's given here is the Vastra dauti, which is the cleansing through a cloth, right? You want to make sure that the cloth is very clean, right? It needs to be boiled. You can also do other dautis, which are given in the orange Hatha Yoga Pradipika book. It describes them more. Vatsara dauti, which is swallowing air into your stomach. Varisara dauti, which is, some of you might have heard of this. It gets called Shankha Prakshalana, which is when you practice by taking 16 glasses of salty water, and then you do some asanas until you get sick, which actually works really well. And by sick, I mean, you can throw up, but usually you'll just pass out through the anus. And then there's Vanisara dauti, which is moving your abdomen and organs around and pushing the navel. So that's a little bit like Kapalabhati or Nauli, but you're pushing the navel in to create this internal cleansing. Bahiskrita dauti is very difficult. I mean, all of these are very difficult, but this one seems really, really hard. You have to push the rectum out and wash it in your hands. The Goranda Samhita says this is not easily available even to the gods. Danta dauti is cleansing the teeth with a special stick. So we actually all do that, brushing our teeth, right? And Hrid dauti is with a stem, like a banana stem, or a stick of some sort, and then vomiting. And the last one is Vaman dauti, which would be to vomit, make yourself vomit. And so these are all very intensive. Again, we have clean food, clean water. We don't have as many parasites, right? So the modern need to do dauti is much reduced. So I don't personally practice this one or know that many people who do practice the Vastra dauti, the cloth dauti. However, it says that coughing, asthma, enlargement of the spleen, leprosy, and 20 other phlegm diseases vanish because of the powers of dauti karma. In this, there is no doubt. So Then we move on to Basti, which is a yogic enema, right? So assume Utkatasana in the water as deep as the navel. Remember, we were talking about the importance of having clean water, right? And having a well in your yoga hut. So this is when you want really clean water. Insert a tube into the anus, contract the anus. This cleansing is Vastikarma. Enlargements of the gland, spleen, and abdomen, and all diseases arising from wind, bile, and phlegm perish due to the power of Vastikarma. So again, they're talking about Jala Basti, which is, or I say should say Jala Basti, which is the enema with water, right? You can also do a dry one, which is like sucking air into your anus and your bowel, which is very difficult. So usually it's said that, or always it's said that you have to be very proficient at Jala Basti first. I don't do this with the bamboo straw, but lots of people have enemas now. Vastikarma, Liz does. Do you want to say anything, Liz?
Questions about enemas. But if you don't want to do, it's a little intimidating to start. I do feel as though it has incredible benefits, especially in understanding the effects of certain foods have on your body and your subtle body. If you are intimidated by that process, there are also things that you can do, like a colon hydrotherapy, where an attendant will actually help you do it, and it's not embarrassing at all. You're in your own privacy. They just help you, set up. Like Bristol said, our food is clean, but of course we have environmental toxins, and there are pesticides and things on our food that sometimes we don't think of. So I won't get too deep into it, but if you're interested in that, you can ask me about it. Not going to show you.
Vastikarma in the water, when regularly practiced, gives clarity to the bodily constituents, the senses, and the mind, gives luster to the body, stimulates the gastric fire, and eliminates all defects. So then we're moving into neti, and unfortunately this morning I forgot my neti pot, but we can do this maybe at our next training session when we're all together. And so there's two types of neti, right? Sutra neti and jala neti. And neti is nasal cleansing. So first they're describing the sutra neti. Insert a very smooth thread, right? Sutra is the word for thread, 9 inches long into a nasal passage and withdraw it from the mouth. This is called neti by the masters. Purifier of the skull and giver of divine sight, neti quickly destroys the flood of diseases originating above the collarbone. So they're giving sutra neti. Most people nowadays practice jala neti, which is much easier. It's using water instead. So you put some salt in the water and you have a special neti pot and you lean to the side and it just filters up and down. I do practice neti. I don't practice it more than once a week. I've found for me personally that that's like the best kind of time distance for me. And so I really only practice it very often if I'm suffering from some sort of sinus issue. And again, maybe we can try that. So if you have a neti pot, feel free to bring it to the next session. Okay. And that, just to note that divine sight they're talking about is clairvoyance, right? So it's said to stimulate the third eye and your intuitive awareness. And then we're moving into Trottika. So Trottika is gazing, right? Gaze with motionless eyes and concentration at a minute point until tears flow. This is called Trottika by gurus. So this is able to be done as Bahiranga Trottika, which is external concentrated gazing. So that's what they're describing here, right? This minute point, you're looking at it. It can be a candle flame, it could be a mandala, It can be, you know, a dot on the wall, but you're looking at it and you're trying not to blink until your eyes tear over. You can also do Antiranga Trottika, which is when you're keeping your eyes closed. And then you visualize a symbol or a point of light, like a star or something, and you try to see that object clearly and steadily in front of your closed eyes. So Trottika removes eye diseases. It is a closed door to lethargy and so on. Strive to keep it secret, as if it were a gold box. And one of the reasons that you'd want to kind of keep it secret is that it also, much like neti, is said to increase your third eye awareness. And so it would increase your intuitive awareness, unlock the kind of inherent energy of your mind and your subconscious. And so it's said to stimulate Ajna chakra. And then we have Nauli. So Nauli is wonderful. Nauli is abdominal massaging. And it's interesting because we'll talk about Uddiyana Bandha later in, I think, the third book. However, you kind of need Uddiyana Bandha in order to learn Nauli. Lower the shoulders, revolve the stomach left and right with the speed of a strong whirlpool. This is called Nauli by the masters. This Nauli is the crown of Hatha practices. It kindles a weak gastric fire, restores the digestion, always brings happiness, and dries up all defects and diseases. So again, as I said, you really need to have Uddiyana Bandha, right? And so when you do Nauli, it's easiest standing up. It's more advanced to do it sitting down. So actually, I'll show you standing up. So you want to be able to apply Uddiyana Bandha and suck your belly up and in. Then you're going to hold all the air out and try to stick the center line of abdominal muscles outwards, your rectus abdominis. And this gets called the tower. So that looks like this. And then you always want to relax your belly first before you breathe. And so once you can find that tower, you try to move it around. And so at first, to learn to move it around, you practice just shifting your weight side to side. And then once you can do that, you'll learn in time to engage a side and release a side, engage a side and release a side in order to circle it around. So you want to go 3 times one direction and then 3 times the other way. And so we'll practice this in class on our next weekend together. It's very fun and it helps you feel really amazing, really improves your digestion, and it's very energizing. And it's really good also for people who have back things. So like SI joint instability, things like this. This is very healing because you're really strengthening the navel. And I will just point out that if any of you have this orange book, it has really nice Nauli breakdowns. Okay. So then our last of the Shat Karma Kriyas is Kapalabhati. So Kapalabhati often gets lumped in as a pranayama, but it's technically a kriya. And so rapidly exhale and inhale like the bellows of a blacksmith. This is known as Kapalabhati. It dries up phlegm diseases with fat. Oh, I'm going on too soon. So let's talk about Kapalabhati. I think all of you know this, but you're snapping the belly back and up and in to force the air out. The inhale happens automatically. So it's really also, much like Nauli, very helpful for your digestion, very energizing and strengthening for the navel. Also good for your sinuses and things like that. With fat, phlegm diseases, impurities, etc., removed by the 6 karmas, one should then do pranayama. One will succeed without strain. And then they're noting like a difference in lineages, right? So all impurities dry up by pranayama alone. Speaking thusly, the other karmas are not approved of by some teachers. So they're basically just saying that some people think you can just keep doing pranayama, and they really think that you should just stick with that and not worry about these techniques. However, it seems like if you have various imbalances and you're noticing a lot of mucus or bile or these things, what can it hurt to try these cleansing techniques? Those who have the nadis under control from gradual practice, raise the apana wind. Remember that apana is the downward flowing wind. So you'd be reversing that, raising it, the apana wind in the esophagus, and vomit the stomach's contents. This is called Gaja Karani. So Gaja Karani is elephant stomach cleansing. And so you're just vomiting. And you can do this having drank water and regurgitating that. And this is not one of the shat karma kriyas, but it's a little bit similar anyway in some ways to the dauti, right? Remember that when I gave all those different types of dauti, there was one that involved vomiting. So this can also help with, you know, if you were working on dauti, I suppose that you could try this as a test. I don't practice this, and I would caution against, you know, teaching this to people for really obvious reasons. The most being, you know, so many people suffer from eating disorders. So this is not really a practice that I think anyone is teaching publicly, but it is in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Even Brahma and other gods engaged in pranayama because they feared death. Therefore, one should practice pranayama. And so, you know, if even the gods need to try this, then we really should. As long as the breath is retained in the body, as long as the mind is calm, and as long as the sight is in the middle of the brows or at the third eye, where is the fear of death? So when you're absorbed, you know, your consciousness is completely absorbed, then you are merging with that part of yourself that's beyond the body and mind. And so you're not afraid of the dissolution of the body and the mind.
Some of you, when we did the, well, if you've ever had the experience in a nice, deep pranayama session where you're able to have a longer breath retention, you may notice, or maybe you haven't, you notice that you feel good afterwards, but during that time, there are no thoughts, there are no associations. It's like you're just floating. And that state is what they're referring to here. If we could be in that state pretty much all the time, there is no fear of death. It's not even, death is not even a thought because you're in the infinite. So that's what they're referring to here. And you may have had like little tastes of it when we did Tumult Breathing. A lot of you said afterwards, you know, you're able to hold your breath for a really long time, but it didn't feel forceful. It felt just right. And you felt liberated. You know, we can kind of go into that realm, but we can't stay until we're enlightened. And if we can begin to become more aware and more present during that experience in the Kumbhaka and the retention of the breath, it might make more sense to you what they're saying here.
The breath splits open the mouth of the sushumna and enters easily once all the nadis are purified by restraining prana correctly. So if you think about the subtle body, which we maybe haven't talked about that much in our training yet, we will be talking about it in October. But I think you should all probably know that there's Sushumna Nadi and then the Ida and the Pingala Nadi. So the Ida Nadi is the left side, Pingala is the right side. So Sushumna Nadi is the central energy channel that you're trying to bring your energy into. And we're trying to basically bring our energy out of these two side channels into the central channel. And Ida and Pingala cross Sushumna Nadi at 7 points, which are the 7 chakras. So basically this sutra is saying, or this verse is saying, that the Sushumna Nadi can split into the 2 nostrils. And so if you're able to practice pranayama very well, Ida and Pingala balance out, and all of that energy is directed into the central energy channel, which is where you need your energy to be when you are trying to become enlightened. Steadiness of mind is born when the breath moves in the middle, when the breath is in Sushumna Nadi. This state of mental steadiness is called Monomani, which is when your mind is devoid of thought. So Liz was just saying this. It's like your mind settles, like a calm lake.
They also call it the mind beyond the mind. And just a helpful imagery, we can include an image of this. I'm sure we have it somewhere. What Bristol was saying, that the nadis, the Ida and Pingala, terminate at the nostrils. So if we can reverse the flow of energy, it actually goes down through the body and then up through the central energy channel. Obviously, it has a long ways to go to get there and a lot of obstacles. And it's very difficult to open up, right? They say Ganesha is sitting there guarding the Kundalini energy. It's hard to crack that open. But when we do, that's when we experience Ananda, bliss. That's not even enlightenment, but you can all feasibly achieve a bliss body in the next month. If you learn how to do this correctly, it's possible.
Those knowing the procedures do various Kumbakas to achieve it. From the practice of various Kumbakas, one obtains various powers. So Kumbakas, again, are retentions, right? And these are the 8 Kumbakas: Surya Beta, Ujjayi, Sikhari, Sitali, Bastrika, Brahmari, Murcha, and Pavani. So these are actually pranayamas, which you would do and then do a Kumbhaka or retention afterwards. And so these are additional pranayamas to the ones we were talking about at the beginning of book 2. And we'll go through what each of these are in a moment. A bandha named Jalandhara is to be done at the end of inhalation. Uddiyana is to be done at the end of Kumbhaka and the beginning of exhalation. So Jalandhara bandha is lifting your chest towards your chin. You don't want to drop your chin way down, right? You want to feel like you bring the chin back, and you really think more about the chest moving up than the chin going down. And so this is said to safeguard all of the nadis in the neck. It's said that you have 70,000 nadis just in your neck alone. And so all the upward moving energy that you're cultivating in your pranayama practice, when you hold that air in the inhale retention, you're sealing off that capsule with Jalandhara bandha. And then Uddiyana is when you exhale. And they're saying at the beginning of exhalation, right? So you draw the navel up and in as you exhale. The full Uddiyana can only be done on an exhale retention. You make a vacuum, right, with your belly. And again, we can practice this in class together, but you're drawing your belly up and in. And I have to let it go in order to talk. There's like a catching at the back of the throat. In prana, oh, sorry, Liz.
A helpful image to visualize when you're doing this is like a sesame seed sized ember in your Muladhara chakra, or seated at the base of the spine, waiting to lift. You know, why do we have the bandhas, which we're going to get into later? They always mention it, like give you a little tidbit and then it's later. But you think of your body, the chakras and the bandhas as like the Panama Canal. That's how I think of it, right? You're trying to lock the energy in. And so by sealing Jalandhara bandha, we are not going to let it go out, but we're keeping it in. We're trying to retain the breath so we can work and try as many times as possible to get the energy to go up through the central energy channel. We have Mulabanda to seal it in so it doesn't escape through the bottom cavity. And then we have Uddiyana Bandha to lift it and then keep it up into the abdomen and try to place it. It's kind of like, have you ever done one of those claw things where you're trying to grab the toy and it's like, you're trying so hard? I mean, this is really hard to place the energy in the right location and then to simultaneously lift it up with the aid of the breath and the bandhas.
So the prana will enter the Brahma Nadi when the contraction of the throat, which is Jalandhara Bandha, contraction beneath, which is Mulabanda, and retraction in the middle, Uddiyana Bandha, are done. So Brahma Nadi is the innermost core of Sushumna Nadi. It's like the most sacred part of the most sacred channel. And so we're trying to get our energy to move there. Having raised the apana upwards, the yogi should guide the prana below the throat. Being liberated from old age, he will be a youth of 16. So Swamarama is making a lot of, he's like selling this hard, right? And, you know, who doesn't want to be revitalized, right? And so now we're moving into Surya Beta, which is another pranayama. So I'm going to turn it over to Liz. So we're at verse 48, which is page 44. Oh, yes. Hold on.
Okay, so as we spoke about earlier, or as I spoke about earlier with Nadi Shodhana and the dispositions, we're going to move into, first is Chandra Beta. Yeah, no, Surya Beta, sorry, Surya Beta. So this would be one that you would do to get more vitality. So in Shloka 48, it says, form an asana, a comfortable seat. So we always want to have our seat set up comfortably so that's not distracting during pranayama. Slowly draw outside air in through the right nadi. Form the kumbhaka to the limit from the hair to the toenails. Exhale the breath very slowly through the left nadi. So we're breathing in the vitality, the Surya masculine energy, and we're exhaling out lethargy, right? The Chandra, the lunar side. So this is something we do to really stimulate us, and we can try it right now. So if you have never done this before, going to take your thumb and your ring finger. Now, some people put their fingers up here. Some people tuck them down. So that's a personal preference, but Vishnu Mudra is the traditional way that we would set it up. And then we're going to take the thumb and we're going to block. Bristol, quick question. Can you see my left and right, or is it mirroring on Zoom?
I think you can see it. It's just mirroring, but I think it's fine.
Okay, so I'll do it with my other hand. So we're going to take the thumb and close the left nostril, and then with your ring finger, you'll just gently place it over your right nostril, but so it's still open. And sometimes even if you have like a deviated septum or something, I even pull, because I do have a deviated septum, pull the skin of my cheek away a little bit so that I can open up fully through that. You could even try it and see how it feels for you. So we'll inhale fully to the full extent. Hold it. And then exhale out through the left. So Patanjali actually says that prana is the moment in between the inhale and the exhale. So it's really important. And sometimes we like brush through this, that we miss that moment between the inhale and the exhale. But we're igniting more vitality, energy by taking in breath through that Pingala side. Inhale, hold, exhale completely. Now, as you're doing this, we're going to add on another layer. So if this is new to you, you would continue to do this at least 3 times in sets of 3. I find is the most helpful. If you've been doing this for a while, then you can start to invite in the bandhas, right? So when we get to the end and we exhale through the left, we're going to hold a kumbhaka, empty breath retention, where we're going to take Mulabanda, Uddiyana Bandha, and Jalandhara Bandha at the same time and see what happens. So let's try that together. Inhale through your right. Hold. Exhale through the left. Hold. Bring in your bandhas. Inhale through the right. Exhale. Hold empty breath. And when you get the inclination to inhale, you just do that on the other side. And release through the left. And then breathe naturally. And just notice. So as I said earlier, there's that natural changing of the energy every 2.5 hours, and it's most noticeable when we wake up in the morning before we go to bed, which nostril feels more open. You can start to pay attention to those subtle differences.
I just want to add something. So Surya Beta, you're always inhaling through the right nostril and exhaling through the left, right? And you can also do Chandra Beta, which is opposite. You inhale through the left and exhale through the right. But it's cautioned by Swami Mukti Bodhananda that you want to be careful of that, because if Ida, the left side, the feminine kind of quieter side, is awakened, the mind can introvert completely and the body can become lethargic. So that's one reason they're saying that only Surya Beta is given in the HYP.
Yeah, and it's, again, like I said, what's your disposition? If you're someone who's like really rajasic and you have tons of energy and you like just cannot stop anger and passion, then that might be someone that a teacher would suggest doing Chandra Beta. And I did show that to them before. So then it's the alternating is Nadi Shodhana, right? There's the alternate nostril breathing, and then there's just one side, which would be Surya and Chandra Beta. So now, just to finish off with Surya Beta, this most excellent Surya Vedana is to be done again and again. It cleanses the skull, destroys wind diseases, and removes worm diseases. And once I wanted to mention this, when they said in number 49 to find Kumbhaka to the limit, from the hair to the toenails. When we're really starting to take this practice seriously, it is that awareness from the roots of your hairs to your toenails, using your entire body like a machine to figure out how to place the energy in the right places. And if that doesn't make sense to you right now, it's okay. But eventually with time, you'll begin to understand and have that awareness of how things move inside your body. Number 51, close the mouth. Slowly draw the breath through both nadis so it resonates from the throat to the heart. This is Ujjayi. Form the Kumbhaka as before. Exhale the prana through the Ida. So Ujjayi breathing, this is the one that we most often teach and we're instructed to do throughout the duration of a yoga class, right? The ocean sounding breath. Constriction through the throat, breathing through the nose on the inhale and the exhale. And as we become more aware of this and more skilled with this, we will have more duration between the inhale and the exhale on both ends of that. This Kumbhaka, called Ujjayi, can be done walking or standing. It removes phlegm diseases in the throat, increases digestive power in the body, and destroys dropsy, which I don't know what that is, and the diseases of the nadis. Do you know what dropsy is?
I think it's like a Victorian kind of disease where you're like fainting.
Okay. And of all bodily constituents. So again, like Bristol said, Swami is really selling these practices, but if even Brahma's doing it, then it's going to be beneficial for us. So let's just do a few rounds of Ujjayi breathing and focus in this time with the visualization of a sesame seed sized ember at your root. So at the base of your spine, towards the front, okay? So we're gonna invite the bandhas in one at a time. Start with Mulabanda, so engage, and then Uddiyana Bandha. Nice tall spine, open, and then Jalandhara Bandha. Close the eyes, and like you're breathing through two straws in each of your nostrils. Breathe all the way in. Feel the shoulders lift, even hold a little at the top, and then exhale all the way out. Again, all the way in. And all the way out. Relax the face all the way in. All the way out. And this deep breathing, so beneficial to us, can open your eyes. As I said before, it has an extremely calming effect on the mind and the body. You know, we've all had those instances where we just feel flustered. And even people who don't practice yoga, right? They do Ujjayi breathing and it has this an effect. And it never ceases to amaze me how smart these yogis were, that they figured this stuff out well before we had any of those modalities to measure this stuff.
Dropsy is swelling in your body, like edema.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There you go. Okay, the next is Shitali. Inhale, making the sound seat in the mouth, then exhale only through the nose. By engaging in this practice, one becomes a second god of love. All right, so not everybody can actually do this one. It's a very...
First we have Sitkari, so the hissing through the teeth. And then we have Sitali.
All right. Oh, thank you.
So Liz is right. Most people can't do Sitali. I can't personally do it. So I have to do Shitkari or just suck the air across my tongue. But Shitkari is a little easier than Sitali.
Yes. So you take your teeth together like this. And it makes that like sound. And as you can hopefully feel, there's a cooling quality in your mouth. So let's try that and close your eyes. And this is really great if you're in a hot class or you just feel like you need to cool down, which I'm doing a lot of in Florida. Set up your seat, clench your teeth lightly together, and then inhale through your nose. Exhale the hot air through the nose. Let's do that twice more. And then just notice the effect that that had on your body. So, respected by all yoginis, maker of creation and destruction, neither hunger nor thirst, nor sleep, nor even lethargy will appear. This Sitkari will develop the body's vitality. The Lord of yogis will be completely free of all disabilities on earth. Draw in the air with the tongue. Practice Kumbhaka as before. Slowly exhale the air through the nostrils. Okay, so this is Shitali. And this is what I normally do. So you're going to take your tongue and make a straw with it. And breathe through your mouth, through the straw of your tongue. So if you can do it, go ahead and take that form now. If you can't, you can do the Shikari again with your teeth clenched. We'll do 3 rounds. Pause and then exhale the hot air out through the nose. Inhale through the tongue. Notice and exhale the warm air out through the nose. One more time, curl your tongue. Exhale, release the pranayama and notice the effect that that had on your body. This Kumbhaka, named Shitali, destroys enlargement of the glands or spleen, other diseases, fever, bile, hunger, thirst, and poisons. Place both clean soles of the feet above the thighs. This is Padmasana, destroyer of all evil. So I'm in lotus on my chair, that you can't see that. From Padmasana, correctly, neck and belly aligned, so no bent spines. Close the mouth, expel the prana through the nose so it resonates in the heart, throat, and up to the skull. Then quickly inhale air up to the lotus of the heart. Exhale and inhale in the above manner again and again. Just as a blacksmith works with the bellows with speed, move the breath in one's own body with the will. When there is fatigue in the body, inhale through the sun and quickly fill the belly with air. Hold the nose firmly without the middle and index fingers. Do Kumbhaka in the prescribed manner. Exhale the air through the Ida. So this is Bastrika, but I'm just going to keep reading it and then we'll do it. This removes diseases of wind, bile, and phlegm. It increases the fire in the body and awakens the kundalini quickly. It purifies, gives pleasure, and is beneficial. It quickly destroys the obstructions of phlegm, etc., that exist at the mouth of the Brahma Nadi. This Kumbhaka, called Bastrika, is to be done with great regularity. It splits the 3 strong knots that form in the body, which are the granthis that Bristol was talking about before. And so Bastrika and Kapalabhati sometimes get confused. But there is a difference because Kapalabhati is like a short pumping of the inhale and the exhale. In Bastrika, the exhale is effortless. We're not doing it. So we're taking deep breaths in and just letting the exhale happen naturally, whereas Kapalabhati is more effortful throughout. Not effortful, right? It's like half inhale, half exhale. Bastrika is full inhale, short, quick, effortless exhale, and then we pump it up again. Sometimes people do this with the arms, but we're just going to do it with the hands down on our knees. So we're going to take deep breath in. So it's big fill and let go versus the difference is subtle, but when you're it's not subtle. When you're doing it, it's very evident what the difference is, but in explanation, it might seem a little bit more subtle. So we're trying to pull the breath up to the crown of the head and feel it light up the entire back body. And then you just let go for the exhale. And then we're going to quickly pull up again and let go. Okay, so let's try that. I'll clap. Hopefully not wake up my son. And we'll do 20 rounds of that, okay? Okay, that's 20. That one always makes me sweat. You know, Swat Marama was talking about when you do pranayama correctly and you feel bliss the inner fire of bliss start to arise, you'll begin to sweat and then use it to make you nice and bright. That one always makes me sweat. And if you feel like the tingling in your hands, in your body, like I do, even just from 20 rounds of that, then you're doing it correctly. Is there anything that you want to add on, Bastrika, Crystal? So hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm going to try to link these together, but in case they're not, thank you for sticking with us as we try our best to get these in fluid presentation mode. So I left off with Bristol talking about Bastrika, and I had mentioned that you can also do that with the arms. And actually, that's how I most often practice it, because when we are doing it with the arms, this pulling down action is pulling prana that we inhale down, and then with our bandhas, down and in. Remember I said that the air can go in, spirals through the 7 chakras, and then we want to get it up, Sushumna Nadi. So we're inhaling it down, but we're also lifting it up. It's like these opposing actions to try and get it through the right channel to go up right here. So I most often do Bastrika or bellows breath with the arms. I also find that it's really, this is one of the more fiery pranayamas, and they say that this one is like the one that evokes, strokes Kundalini, awakens Kundalini. And so you should hopefully feel like some tingliness, heat, the bliss of inner fire, and sweat, maybe. So as we're doing this, because most of you hopefully have done this before, I'm going to invite you to go into the full expression of doing this. Now, in the beginning, we just have people focus on the breath like I did there. You can also just do, so we did a very intentional inhale, kind of relaxed exhale. You can also do relaxed inhale, very forceful exhale. Just like Chandra Beta and Surya Beta, there are 2 different ways that you can do this. With the arms, it's a forced exhale. And it's, I think it's called bellows breath. This has a very strong effect on the skull and all of the nadis in the head. And in the beginning, like I said, we just have people focus on the breath. Then we add in the bandhas, no arms yet. And then lastly, we'll do breath, bandhas, and the arms. So we're going to go for 50 rounds of this, because when you get more skilled in this practice, you're going to do it like 3 times, 3 rounds of 50, or you can do 50, 50, 100. We'll do 1 round of 50 and see how we feel. Okay. So we're going to inhale up. So I know you can't see my fingers here either, but you can sit in Sukhasana, Yoni Asana with your heel into your pelvis, or Vajrasana for guys, or you can come into Padmasana, lotus. Remember, right leg in first, as Bristol said. And then you can inhale, fingers open, exhale, make a fist. Okay, so you're going to inhale. And then release your hands. And feel the results of that practice. Find all of your bandhas. Retain the breath on your next exhale. And when you have the urge to inhale, breathe in. Okay, so that's Bastrika breathing. Next is Ramari, and I love bees actually. This is a cute one. A quick and resonant inhalation sounding like a bee, and a very slow exhalation sounding like a female bee. Thus, a certain bliss and delight are born in the minds of good yogis from doing Brahmari. So sounding like a bee and then a female bee, that's a little confusing. So we want to sound like a worker bee, and then a female bee is like soft and low and sweet sounding. So we're making noise on the inhale and the exhale. We're going to plug the ears with the index fingers. Let's see if I can get this light a little bit brighter here. You're going to plug the ears with the index fingers, relax the shoulders, and I'll just demo and then we'll try it together. So, in my head, it sounds really loud because when you plug your ears, you bring the noise right into the skull. And as you alternate around with different pitches, you can actually feel it in different parts. So in the beginning, we're making like kind of a high, intense sound. And then in the exhale, it's like a low, calming sound. And this one's really good for clearing out the nadis in the brain. Okay, so let's try it together. Plug your fingers into your ears. We're going to do 10 cycles. Release and just notice. Find your bandhas and Kumbhaka. Empty the breath. And when you have the urge to inhale, naturally inhale. That's Brahmari. At the end of inhalation, hold Jalandhara tightly and slowly exhale. This one, named Murcha, clears the mind and gives happiness. This one, there's a couple of different ways to do. So you'll inhale. Let me back this up here. So you'll inhale, and let me just see what. You're going to inhale with your hands on your knees, and it's kind of like you're coming into cat spine. So we're going to engage Mulabanda, Uddiyana Bandha. And at the top of your inhale, you're going to round and engage Jalandhara Bandha and hold Kumbhaka. So you're holding the breath as long as you can. And when you have the urge to exhale, you just gently come back to seated. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Conversely, there's the complete opposite. So some people do this with the hands on the knees. Some people do it with the hands back behind them. So now, like a cow pose, we're going to inhale all the way. When you get to the top of your inhale, hold your throat opens. And then exhale, come back to seated. Now you can do a combination of those. In Brian Akers' translation, it's just the cat version, but I've seen it in other places as the back opener. I'm just seeing what Mukti Bodhananda has here. I'm still in Kriyas. Okay, so he actually has both. So I recommend this one, swooning breath. So you can see he has it here in the beginning as I did. Step 1, and then step 2, he has it as the throat opener. And again, these things are something that we have to really pay attention to our dispositions and our needs at the moment, so we can do the one which is appropriate. We're going to try 5 rounds of each of those. Okay, so let's try 5 rounds. And one thing I should say, especially with this one opening up, if you feel a sensation of dizziness or fainting or anything like that, whenever we move the body into a back bend and retain breath, there is that possibility of lightheadedness. So just if that happens to you, you can take a pause. This is the back bend one is a pretty advanced pranayama. So, if that doesn't feel good for you, then you can just stick with the closed version, okay? So remember, we're gonna inhale, engage Mulabanda, Uddiyana Bandha, and at the top of the inhale, we pull Jalandhara Bandha in, hold, and naturally inhale, come to neutral. All right, inhale. Okay, so that was 5 with Jalandhara Bandha. And now we're going to take it tipping the head back. And as you're doing this, eyes are closed. Try to focus your awareness in the space between your eyebrows. Let me just see one thing here. Okay, I knew it was in here. The scientific reason why you might feel like dizzy is because we're compressing the great vessels in the back of the neck when we tilt our head back. So just be mindful of that. Try to keep a long back of the neck, and not to just drop your head back, okay? Hands on your knees, or you can take your hands back behind you if you feel that helps you get a little more leverage in your chest, okay? Inhale fully. Exhale to neutral. Inhale fully. Exhale to neutral. Inhale fully. Exhale to neutral. Do that 2 more times. Move a large amount of air inside, filling the belly. Float happily like a lotus leaf, even in bottomless water. This is Plavini. And Plavini is filling up your breath. So it's like balloon breathing. And a lot of times you'll see people practicing this in the water, but you can do this laying down, meditative position. What we're going to do is hold full of breath and try to distend the belly as much as possible. And naturally exhale when you have the desire. That one feels really nice. And happily like a lotus leaf. A large amount of air inside. So you're really just trying to distend the belly. Pranayama is said to be of three kinds: exhalation, inhalation, and Kumbhaka. Kumbhaka is thought to be of two kinds: Sahita and Kevala. Until such time as Kevala, which is that spontaneous one, is mastered, one should practice Sahita, which is intentional breath retention. Abandon exhalation and inhalation. Hold the breath comfortably. This pranayama is the one called Kevala Kumbhaka. Nothing in, and that means, right, you just completely stop breathing. Nothing in the three worlds is hard to win by one who masters Kevala Kumbhaka without exhalation or inhalation. And if you've read the autobiography of a yoga, then you know of these sages who just spontaneously stop breathing for a really long time, sometimes days, hours, and then they start breathing again like nothing ever happened. One made powerful by Kevala Kumbhaka from holding the breath as desired obtains even the state of Raja Yoga. In this there is no doubt. Through Kumbhaka, the Kundalini is awakened. Through awakening the Kundalini, the Sushumna is unblocked, and success in Hatha is born. Raja Yoga will not be complete without Hatha, nor Hatha without Raja Yoga. Therefore, practice the pair to perfection. Make the mind without objects at the end of the retention of the prana in Kumbhaka. One should reach the state of Raja Yoga by engaging in this practice. Like we said before, when you go to that space in retention where there's no thoughts, there's nothing, you feel light as a feather, free. That is the space they're talking about. And you could stay there forever with practice. These are the indicators of success in Hatha: leanness of the body, clearness of face, distinctness of nada, that subtle sound, very clear eyes, health, victory over bindu, your seed, lighting of the digestive fire, and purity of the nadis. Thus ends the second chapter in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Thank you so much. Namaste.